Hello everyone, welcome to Southern Wreaths. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel and be sure to give me a thumbs up. Today I'm making this really cool spider wreath. These are the supplies I'm going to use to make this wreath. I don't use the orange ribbon. I'm going to start by cutting my pipe cleaners into thirds. So it's about 4 inches for each piece of pipe cleaner. I'm using a 14-inch wire frame from Dollar Tree. You don't have to cut your pipe cleaners, it just makes life a little bit easier when you're twisting. I'm doing the bubble method, and when you're twisting, it makes the back not as messy. So I had this little bit of mesh left over, so I'm going to go ahead and use it first. I'm just going to use a zip tie to attach it to the frame, and this is 10-inch black mesh. After I attach it, I'm just going to trim away the zip tie and the excess mesh. And I like to push the mesh through to the back and then trim it away. It just kind of keeps it in the back of the wreath form. So to do my bubbles, I'm just going to measure it out on my mat here. And then I'm going to take a pipe cleaner and use one pipe cleaner for each poof. So I'll show you here. So I'm doing 10-inch poofs or bubbles. I'll hold it there at the frame. And then I'm just going to pick a random ring to start. And this is the ring I'll use the entire time. It just makes it look nice and even as you go around. And then after I twist it, probably 3 or 4 times, I just kind of tuck it up into the wreath. And then I'll continue making my poofs. And you can make them bigger or smaller if you like. 10 inches was a good fit for this wreath. I wanted you to be able to see a lot of the center because of the spider web and spider that I'm adding. And I like to take my thumb and press in the center of each pipe cleaner to get it to bend. So then you can just put it on either side of the frame and twist it. Now I'm just speeding it up a little bit just to show you how I do each section. I like to count how many I'm putting in each section and then try to keep that uniform going all the way around. If anyone's interested in following me on social media, you can find me on Instagram at Southern Wreaths More, on Facebook at Southern Wreaths, and I also have a Facebook group called Southern Wreaths and More. I also have all of these links in the description below. You could also use zip ties. I always just get poked with the zip ties after I cut them away, which I guess you could wait till the end to cut them, but it just seems like this is a lot easier. And as you can see, I'm going to be able to use this one roll to fill up this whole section. And I was able to fit 5 bubbles in that section. So now I'm just going to start my new roll, and I'm just pushing everything through to the back from the top. And I'm just going to attach it with a zip tie just to make sure it's not going to come loose. And it worked out because it was right there at the crossbar. I really like to attach the mesh to begin and end at a crossbar. It just keeps it from sliding. Which this wreath, it doesn't really matter because you want the bubbles to be pushed up against each other. And, you know, the more you add, the more they push together. And you didn't have to do a bubble method with this particular wreath. The best part of this wreath is just having the spider web and spider. Now after I got it attached, I'm just going to trim everything away and then just continue making my bubbles. So now that I've went around and done all of the bubbles, I'm just going to show you once it gets kind of crowded, you definitely want to make sure you've been counting just so you don't get messed up or cram too many in there. And here I can show you from the back how I twist it and then just tuck it into the wreath. You could go around and do 2 layers of bubbles if you wanted to. I just decided to stick with 1. And now I'm just trimming away the mesh and pushing it to the back. And if you used like a specialty mesh with this, you wouldn't be able to see through it. Something that's got like a lot of metallic or a burlap mesh, maybe even jute mesh, depending on how thick it is. With this particular one, you can see through parts of it, so I'll show you a little trick I do to fix that at the end. But now I'm just going to trim everything away. So this is what it will look like if you just do one layer of the bubble mesh. So you could definitely go through and add a second layer. So now I'm going to add my ribbons. I'm just using my 12-inch piece of cardboard just to measure out my ribbon quickly. And I'm just wrapping it around as many times as I need, depending on how many bundles of ribbon I want. And then I'll just trim it away. I really liked how the plain black went with the really pretty, sparkly Harlequin ribbon. I just really like Halloween colors, the purple and the orange and the blacks. They all look really nice together. For the 2-inch ribbon, or I think it's 1.5-inch ribbon, I'm just cutting at an angle. But for the other ribbons, the 2.5-inch ribbons, I'll cut dovetail on either end. And this glitter ribbon did not make a mess, thankfully, and it cut really well. I do have a really big stack of ribbon together that I'm cutting at the same time. You don't have to do that much. That's probably why I go through scissors so fast. And I'll just make bundles and attach them into the wreath. So I'm going to stack them together the way I want. And now I'm just going to cut my pipe cleaners in half. Again, you can use a full pipe cleaner if you want. And you can add a lot more ribbon too if you want to. So I'm only doing bundles of 2 ribbon. You could also add 3 or 4 per section. I don't usually go more than 3 in a bundle. And then I just pinch it in the center and then just twist it around the ribbon bundle. I like to pull up on the ribbon as I'm twisting. This kind of helps the ribbon puff out, and it also makes sure you get a really tight twist because you don't want the ribbon to come apart. And I just run through and make all of my bundles, and then I'll attach them to the wreath. And here I'll show you again with the really pretty purple. Just trying to line it up the best I can to make it even, and then fold it in half to find the center. I like to crease it, and then I'll just pinch it together, and that's where I'm going to add my pipe cleaner. And you do want to kind of fluff your ribbon out before you add the pipe cleaner. You don't want it to be twisted or one part of it tucked under. And then I pull it up and twist tightly. And I won't fluff the ribbon until I add it into the wreath. So I decided when I'm adding the ribbon that I'm going to do one on one side and then go directly across from that one. And that way I get a nice even balance of the ribbons. Instead of having to count poofs and stuff like that, I thought that was too much of a headache. But I basically just stick the pipe cleaners through in between the mesh, and then I'm just going to fluff it. And I like to make an X. And then I kind of smooth it down to make sure it like kind of hugs the bubbles. Make it look nice. So now I'm going to go directly across and do the same thing. I'm just pushing it through to the back. Twisting probably 3 or 4 times, and then I'll tuck it in either now or I'll go back through and make sure everything's tucked in. And then again, make an X. And now I'll just go through and add all of the ribbon in. And I like to alternate the black and the gingham and then the purple and the harlequin. So I thought that was pretty even. So now I'm going to make sure all of the pipe cleaners are out of the way before I attach my web with the spider on it. So I wasn't 100% sure if it was going to be covered all the way when I first set out to make this wreath, but luckily it was. You can't see any of it from the front, like the edges. And I'm doing the same thing here that I did with the ribbon. I'm just kind of going back and forth from side to side and then just making my way around. And I'm using zip ties to attach it. I just want to make sure after I trim the zip ties away, I'm pushing them towards the front of the wreath so they won't scratch someone's door. You could probably use pipe cleaners here as well. I just thought this was such a cute idea. And now I'm just going to trim them all the way at the same time. It was a lot easier to do that. Okay, so I noticed you could see through the wreath, and I didn't want that to be the case. And there was only one section of the wreath that I could see from the front. So I'm just using my leftover black ribbon, and I'm going to hot glue it to the back of the wreath and just make my way around it, just to cover that one part of the wreath so you can't see the frame. It just creates, I don't know, just like a background so you can't actually see the frame. And a little trick to this is after I glue it down to the straight part, I'm going to kind of tuck it. That way it's going into a circle. So right here you'll see I tuck and it kind of creates a fold. And then I'll put hot glue in that crease and push it up against that section. You don't have to do this, especially if you use a better mesh that you can't see through, or if you add 2 layers of bubble, like 2 layers of mesh, you won't be able to see it. I was going super simple with this wreath, so I ended up being able to see the frame. And I only do this for the 2 inside rings, and that's what it looks like when it's done. That also kind of helps cover up the pipe cleaners, which is nice. But that's what it looks like from the front. I'll go through and fluff my ribbons, and then I decided I wanted to add these really cute spiders. They come on clips. I tried to hot glue them and it just was not working, so I just kept them on the clips and I'm just attaching them to the wreath. And you can basically just push the metal through the mesh, and you kind of want to camouflage it. The silver is kind of shiny, but I didn't really worry about it too much. But I wanted to make sure they were all crawling in different directions. I just thought it came out so good. But that's it. That's how I made my spooky spider bubble wreath. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, or you can email me at craftingwithlee@yahoo.com. Thanks so much for watching, and if y'all learned anything today, or if you like my video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.